and welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. While I was editing this video, I accidentally deleted my intro. But today we are making 3 different Mexican treats: Mexican bread, Mexican cookies, and orejas.
Here are the ingredients for the first recipe. The first one we're going to make is going to be Mexican bread.
I started with the Mexican bread because this bread does take some time to make. It's not hard to make. You have to let it rest twice, so it takes time. Also, I wanted to let you know that I don't really measure out my ingredients for this recipe. I weigh my ingredients on a food scale, and I just find that the bread comes out better. I will link all of the recipes that I'm using today in the description box. These are not my own recipes. These are just recipes that I've been using over the past few years. So now I'm going to work the dough just a little bit on a floured surface. You want to make sure that this dough feels soft and elasticy. It should be slightly sticky. And then I'm going to go ahead and set it aside in a greased bowl until it doubles in size. That's the most important thing. So whether it takes an hour or 2 hours to do this, just let it double in size. So while I'm waiting for the bread to rise, I decided to get started on the topping for the bread. The topping is very simple. It is just shortening, powdered sugar, all-purpose flour, and cinnamon. Well, the cinnamon's optional. I like to put in a pinch of cinnamon. I just think it tastes really good. If you wanted to make like a chocolate topping, you can. You just add some cocoa powder, but I didn't want to do that today. I prefer the cinnamon option. And all you want to do is just mix in the dry ingredients a little bit at a time with the shortening until it's very creamy. And then what I ended up doing is dyeing one bowl pink and the other yellow. And I was trying to be patient while mixing the dye in, or the food coloring in, but I lost my patience and ended up picking it up and just working it with my hands, which worked out so much easier. And by the time I was done with this recipe and I washed my hands weren't even colored. So it didn't matter that I picked it up, but I just really like the traditional pink and yellow toppings. And again, I did weigh out the ingredients for the topping as well. I just think that it comes out better that way. So as soon as I was done mixing these, I just put them out on the counter and let them sit there until I was ready for them. Again, it does take a while for that bread to double. And so while I was waiting, I decided to go ahead and just start the next recipe. And this next recipe is super fast and simple.
So while I am waiting for the dough to rise on the Mexican bread, I'm going to make orejas. So it's just white sugar, cinnamon, and puff pastry. This one's super simple to make.
So all you're going to do is start by mixing your cinnamon and sugar together in a bowl. And then you're going to just sprinkle your work surface with that cinnamon sugar. Make sure you do save some for later. So I'm just putting this in an even layer. And then I'm going to open up the puff pastry and I'm going to put a sheet of puff pastry directly on top of the cinnamon sugar. These are like little showstoppers. These come out very beautiful and they're really tasty and they look harder to make than what they are. So once you have the puff pastry out, you're going to sprinkle it with more cinnamon sugar mixture and you're going to roll it really thin. You really want to make sure you're getting that cinnamon sugar stuck inside that puff pastry. And try not to tear your puff pastry. I almost did. But once it is nice and thin, you are just going to start rolling up each side of the puff pastry. And as you're rolling, you are going to sprinkle it with, yes, more cinnamon sugar mixture. And each time you roll it up, you could sprinkle it if you feel like there's not enough on it. And you're just going to continue to roll it and roll it and roll it until you have one log. Once you have one log, you're going to take it and cut it into 1-inch strips, and you're going to put it on a cookie sheet. You're going to refrigerate it for 15 minutes. And then once it's nice and cold and refrigerated for 15 minutes, you are going to put it into a 375-degree oven for 20 minutes. These are meant to be crunchy. So once that 20 minutes has passed, you're going to flip them and bake them an additional 5 minutes. So here they are after the first 20 minutes of baking. They are super cute. They like turn into little hearts, and I just like the way that they look. I'm going to pop these back in for 5 more minutes.
So now that this has doubled in size, I'm gonna go ahead and get started back on the Mexican bread.
So now that this dough is ready, I am going to just divide it into 16 different pieces, and then I'm going to roll each of the 16 pieces into a ball. So now that the dough is all equally separated and rolled up, I'm applying it to a cookie sheet. And then what you want to do is you want to take a little bit of shortening and just rub and grease the top of the bread with the shortening. And that's going to help the topping to stick to the bread. So again, you want to be careful here because you don't want it to be like super, greasy, but you just want enough so that the topping will stick. So now I just floured my hands and I am dividing the topping into 8 equal pieces. I will do the same with the yellow topping as well. And all you do is you roll it into a ball and then flatten it with the palms of your hands. And you just do that over and over again until each piece of bread has topping. So once they all have topping, you are just going to, make a little pattern on top. I'm just doing lines. You can also do a swirl and it'll make it look like a shell once it bakes. But after I'm done putting these patterns on the topping, I'm going to cover it with a towel and I'm going to let it rise. This is the second rise again, which is why I started this bread earlier on. You need to let it double in size once again. So now I'm going to bake these for 20 minutes at 325 degrees.
Here are the ingredients for the last recipe that I'm making. These are Mexican cookies.
So I started off this recipe once again by weighing out my ingredients. Again, in these recipes, I prefer to use the weight. You don't have to. I just feel that it comes together a little bit better when I go by weight. I wanted to mention, though, how simple the ingredients are. I mean, just in these cookies, it's just shortening, regular white sugar, an egg, all purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda. I mean, it's very, very basic. This is all stuff I always have on hand. So, these cookies can come together really fast. Another thing I wanted to mention is how versatile these cookies are. So, these cookies come in so many different shapes, colors. I mean, you can flavor them in all different ways. Some people like to just add a little bit of orange zest to this cookie dough, to have like a little bit of an orange flavor. I'm actually going to be using vanilla extract in this cookie today, and it comes out really good. If you want to make chocolate cookies, all you have to do is add a couple of tablespoons of cocoa powder. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this dough. But like I said, you could even do different shapes. Sometimes people just like to add sprinkles on top of the cookies when they're making it. I mean, you could just find these cookies in so many different colors, shapes, and flavors. I also wanted to mention that the first few times I made this cookie, I thought that I had done something wrong because the batter just didn't seem to be coming together. It seemed to dry. So just remember, when you pull it out of the bowl, just kind of work it a little bit with your hands and just be patient with it. It does come together in the end and it does work out. So here you're going to notice that I'm splitting the dough in half, and that is because I'm going to color half the dough yellow and then half of the dough pink. And then once again, I'm just going to work this dough with my hands until the color is throughout the entire cookie or cookie dough. So now it's time to roll out the cookies. Make sure you use some flour on your board because these do stick. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bowl to cut out really large cookies. I prefer to have like those really big, like the size of your face Mexican cookies. This is the way I've always made them since I was little. So I just continue to make them really giant. But with these cookies, all you want to do is roll it out, cut them in whatever shape you want, put them on a cookie sheet, and sprinkle the top with white sugar just to kind of finish them off. And then, of course, you're going to want to bake them. So you bake these cookies at 325 degrees for about 18 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes, depending on the size of your cookie. Just keep in mind that if you make your cookies smaller, you're going to want to cook them less. So don't forget about that. And also, with this cookie recipe, when you pull them out of the oven, make sure you let them set for at least 5 minutes because these cookies will crumble and break on you if you pull them off the cookie sheet too soon. So just be patient and let them cool just a little right when you pull them out of the oven before you move them. Here are all of the treats all completed. They are all fantastic. These ones back here, I actually had to have my family stop eating them because they already ate an entire tray before I can even get them onto this platter. But yes, I wanted to get this out for Day of the Dead just in case you want to try any of them. Obviously, you don't have to wait for Day of the Dead because these would be delicious anytime. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great day. Bye.